Hi, I'm Ashley McGee, and I am joined today by Kimberly Basco. Kimberly, thank you so much for being here.
I'm excited to be here. I'm always happy to talk wellness, Ashley.
Yes, and that is what we do here is talk health and wellness. So, and as you know, I am military affiliated, so I always like to start by asking my guests, how are you connected to the military?
I have been an Army spouse for almost 20 years. So the big 2-0 is coming up in January. So
Nice.
it's been an amazing journey so far.
Yeah, that's incredible. And it takes a lot of resilience. I'm active duty myself, but I'm also a military spouse. I'm dual mil. And my husband is nearing the end of a 9-month deployment. So I finally will get to live with him soon. But
Hey, that's awesome.
yeah, yeah, 2 years of marriage and we've never lived together. It's really cool.
It'll be a brand new experience, a whole new adventure.
Yes, yes. But it's definitely taught me a lot and given me a lot more insight as to kind of what military spouses go through. Because I think sometimes, unfortunately, in the active duty community, especially with women, it's kind of like an us versus them thing. Like because women in the military don't really feel like we have a place to fit. And so I think sometimes this animosity is created and ultimately we're all just like trying to survive. So
Absolutely. And it is difficult, I think. I've heard it over and over, hearing from women service members that roles get mixed up, people don't understand them, they don't know where they belong.
mhm.
And then when it's dual military, it's like, okay, I show up at the spouses club thing or the
Mhm.
coffee, but I'm also a service member, so people are asking me weird questions, and
Yeah,
I've heard it's hard.
it's definitely an interesting road to navigate. I mean, I like to joke I married an old guy, so my husband's 15 years older than me, which means he also outranks me. So my peer group are going to be like department heads and his peer group are commanding officers. So it definitely becomes this like interesting navigation. But I know you are a co-founder of Independent, and I would love for you to talk a little bit about what Independent is and how you decided to start that.
Yeah, our mission at Independent is to make wellness accessible
Mm,
and create opportunities for friendship, accountability, and inspiration for all military spouses.
I love
And
that.
that includes guard and reserve, and if you're married, if you're dual military, so you're included, and even veteran spouses. So I know a lot of times once people put the veteran hat on, then they no longer carry the title military spouse. There's like this
Mm,
line in the sand. But if you've been a military spouse and your spouse is retired and you want to join us, more than welcome. And men too, we're not just for women.
mhm,
So
mhm.
although Independent is very heavily female right now, we do welcome male spouses as well. We try very hard to keep our language and our branding welcoming so that,
Mm.
the very small numbers that we do have are welcome to come on in if they want to.
Yeah, I love that. So what inspired Independent? I assume you saw a need that needed to be filled as far as wellness in the military spouse community. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it actually started as an employment question before the time when military spouse employment became the hot topic.
Hmm.
It was an article that came out and it was shared on Facebook a while ago about how the military had a junior officer retention problem because their spouses wanted them to get out because they did not have career opportunities.
Mhm.
And as you can imagine, the comments are flying back and forth and there's a big debate
Mhm.
and like, yeah, a lot of feeling sorry for ourselves. I have this degree, or I have this experience, I'm not able to use it. And this came through when we were stationed in Germany. So a lot of people who might
Mm.
have been working otherwise were
Mhm.
unemployed for those years that we were there.
Oh, wow.
So I opened my big mouth and I said, well, if we're so smart, then we should do something about it. Having our
Mm.
service member get out is not the only solution.
Mm.
And I just left it there, and somebody who took my yoga class regularly responded and said, hey, we have an idea. Let's talk after yoga tonight. Like, okay, what have I gotten myself into? And so I went and taught my yoga class, and somebody who came from another installation. So we were in Bamberg, and these women drove all the way from Schweinfurt just to take my class. I was so honored. But
So wait, for people that don't know geography in Germany, like me, how far away is that?
about 45 minutes,
Okay.
to an hour. So to drive that far to take a yoga class is
Yeah, that's significant.
Yeah. So a couple regulars came, and they happened to work together in the same office over at Schweinfurt.
Mm-hmm.
So they had seen this at work or on their lunch break or whenever it was. Don't want to give anybody away or anything. And they said, we want to do something. We feel like we're underemployed in the jobs that we are doing, and we want to be of service to our community. Let's get together with this other girl we work with who doesn't, or woman, who does not come to yoga and chat. And so we set up a date to all get together at this wonderful organic restaurant in Bamberg. And we talked about the needs that we saw in our community. And because this all kind of originated from a relationship from yoga class, we were definitely thinking wellness. It's something that we all cared about. We all cared about
Absolutely.
wellness. And we recognized that there was not something just for military spouses, a program that's portable, that's supportive, that's not coming through the military itself. And the military itself has lots of things for families, but very heavily toward the children or the service member. And nothing, that where we could come and talk about our specific issues pertaining to wellness in a constructive way. There are all kinds of places where people want to vent and talk about what's going on, but in a supportive way where resources can come together and help you improve your wellness. And we wanted to create that. So Independent as a nonprofit was born there in Germany before we all scattered and PCS'd elsewhere.
That's such an incredible story. And I love, again, that it was born out of, hey, we see this issue, we see this need, and we're kind of getting overlooked here in something that's really important. And I resonate so strongly with that, because that's basically been the driver behind my business, with women in the military in particular. And when I say military women, I do include spouses and veterans in that umbrella. But, as a service member before I got married, I often felt overlooked and forgotten. And it's interesting how the perspectives change, because for me, I was like, everything's either for dudes or spouses. Like, I'm a woman in the military, and how am I supposed to take care of myself? So it's been like, that's been my driver. And I love seeing that also in your story as well. Again, like, the military spouse community has unique issues and things that I think even as like the service member, like we're not really aware of it because we're off doing our job.
So you were freezing up on me a little bit, so I hope
no.
I hope that this comes through smoothly. But I will respond to what I did hear you say, and that is, when you are wellness minded and you don't feel like there is a space for you, it can be very isolating and intimidating. And what I see from the service member side, from the female service member side, I can see that that can be very difficult, you know, with trying to make weight or to pass a PT test after having a baby, or other things that, because women are a minority in the military, that the people making the decisions might not be thinking about.
Yeah.
And the same on the spouse side, you know, we have stuff, you know, one thing that we do at Independent is we have a program called Wellness Unfiltered, where we talk about more difficult wellness issues like domestic violence, like alcoholism, like pregnancy loss. And you might not feel comfortable going into your medical treatment facility on an installation and talk about some of these things, because there's, or even the chaplain, you know, it's all confidentiality, but you still wonder, if I bring this up, what's it going to do to my service member's career? And so we want to take it outside of the military and have it be our own special space.
Yeah, that's something that I honestly was completely unaware of as an issue for, you know, spouses bringing forward issues and worrying about retribution to the service member. Can you talk a little bit about, you know, what that looks like and how Independent is helping create a space outside of that a little bit more?
Yeah, what we're doing at Independent is we're having people tell their stories, but not in a dramatic, look at me, this is the big thing that's happening to me thing, but in a way where if I tell this story, then somebody else might see themselves in my story, and then also provide resources along with it. So if you're going through this difficult thing, here are some resources that can help you. And then also, if you know somebody who's going through this thing, here are some ways from somebody who's been through it that can maybe be of a support in the community. So when somebody drops a bomb on you, like, hey, I just had a miscarriage, there's that awkward pause because you don't know what to say. And you want to be supportive, but it's kind of scary because you don't want to cross boundaries. And so we want to hear from people who've been through it. How can your community help you? How can your close friends help you? And then if you go through this, where can you turn to receive support? And there's concern, especially we've had 4 overseas assignments. And so, yeah, so we've been overseas a lot. So we have that top of mind. And so, you know, if you have stuff in your medical file, if they're not able to serve you at the installation where you're going, you might not be approved to accompany your service member, or your service member may need to be reassigned. So there becomes a concern that, hey, if I go talk about this to my provider, is it going to make it so that my spouse doesn't get the assignment they really wanted, or so that we are going to have to be separated, we're not going to be able to be together? And I know there's theory and there's practice. So I think on the military side, they would say, you know, we want to make sure that everybody's taken care of, but there have been instances in which something happened way back and it's not even an issue anymore, but it's causing issues with the assignments. So it makes people hesitate to want to go through an official route, which is concerning, because if you have something going on with your wellness, you need to take care of that and not have to think about what are the career ramifications for my service member.
Absolutely, especially since like the medical system and like TRICARE like already isn't the easiest, like friendliest thing to navigate. So having that additional concern on top of that, I can imagine be extremely stressful. That's really interesting. I do want to go back a little bit. I heard you mention you are a yoga instructor, and I didn't know that. So I would love to hear a little bit about your personal health journey and as it relates to health and wellness.
Yeah, my personal health journey started in college. I been a lifelong vegetarian. I was raised that way, but I wasn't necessarily a good vegetarian. I had lots of vegetables that I didn't like, and Oreos are vegan, right? Like you can be a junk food vegetarian.
I had a roommate like that.
But it still puts a focus on food at a time when, maybe not all teenagers or young adults are thinking about their food choices. It's something that was already built into my lifestyle. But I started dating my husband. So we are high school sweethearts, actually.
Wow.
Yeah. And we went to the same college together. And his mom pulled me aside. It was a super awkward conversation. But she's like, if you're going to be the mother of my grandchildren, you need to eat more vegetables. I think I was like 19 years old or something like that. And I was mortified because I was over for a special meeting, I think it was a Thanksgiving or something like that. And she served Brussels sprouts, and that wasn't one of the vegetables that I ate at that time. And so I politely just didn't serve myself any. But my boyfriend, my husband, was like, you need to eat some Brussels sprouts. I'm like, I need to. But there started to be that pressure into, and good, like it's really good. I needed it to start branching out, eating more things, eating more healthfully. And we read a book called 8 Weeks to Optimum Health by Dr. Weil. And so that was my first experience with actually reading food labels and understanding what the ingredients were in my food, and as a vegetarian, what I needed to be supplementing, and, just all these things. And that book just really changed both of our lives. It came off of my mother-in-law's bookshelf.
Wow.
So she's been an influence in that way. So we started in college with being mindful about the foods that we were choosing. Still college students, we still ate like pastaroni and frozen vegetables and stuff like that, but we were becoming more aware.
Yeah.
Then we graduated from college, still together. We eventually got married, and I set out as a professional. I worked as a CPA, and it was stressful. And I decided that I needed a way to figure out how to relieve that stress. And I randomly found yoga. The answer that I thought was going to be, hey, I'm going to go with my coworkers to the gym down the street at lunchtime every day. And that's going to be the thing that I'm doing for myself. But on Tuesdays at lunchtime, they offered yoga. And it immediately made me feel so much better that I was trying to figure out, okay, well, when are other days that I can go and do yoga? Can I go before work? Can I go before my evening master's degree classes? Can I go on the weekend? When can I do more yoga? And when I love something so much, and when it made me feel so much better, I wanted to be able to share it. And it was quite a few years before I could actually go and do my teacher training, which is good. It's nice to have a foundation in the practice before you become a teacher. But many years later, when we were stationed in Germany, I went and I did my 200-hour teacher training in Spain. They had an English language program, and I was able to just go and do an intensive. A neighbor helped care for my daughter while I was gone for that whole time, which was incredible. You talk about the support of military families coming together.
Yeah.
When my husband wasn't able to be with her, my neighbor was helping take care of her. So that was great. And so I've taught PT, I've taught on military installations, I've taught in independent yoga studios, I've taught in a big corporate yoga studio. So I've been able to share the practice with a lot of people, and it's been fantastic.
Oh, I love that. It's really cool to have that through line again of, the commitment to your health. And then, okay, I love this. I want to share it with other people, which is, it makes it all more fun, I think. Definitely.
Yeah. And I finally made the decision to go at a book club with other military spouses. It was a really sad book, and I wish I could remember the name because it caused this big change in my life. But it was about a woman who got pregnant and she got married before, to somebody that maybe she wouldn't have chosen, and sooner than maybe she would have wanted. And she ended up abandoning her family because she had a dream of being an actress. And so she left her family and went to LA. And I was like, as a mom of, I think my daughter was in 3rd grade at that time, I thought, what do I need to be doing for myself so that I don't get that desperate to want to leave my family, to be so resentful of all the things that I've maybe given up or put aside because of the military life or because of being a mom. And my answer to that was I would go do this yoga teacher training. And then I thought, well, what's keeping me from doing it? Like, why can't I go do this? And of course, my daughter was the answer, but I didn't want that to be the answer. I didn't want to put that on her. And so this friend, my neighbor, we had been stationed together previously. And so I thought, this is our 2nd time. We've been friends for a while. I think it's probably okay for me to make this ask at this time. So I did.
Wow. That's awesome. And I think there's something so powerful in that because, so often in the military community, both among service members and among spouses, I think there's that kind of crisis of identity where you get so wrapped into either, the job or being a service member's spouse or being a mom that you lose or forget who you are and the things that drive you as an individual. So it's really an incredible part of your story to hear like that awareness of, okay, like I never want to be in that position. So I'm going to do something that I want for me. And I think that's something that's so important that really everyone needs to remember is we are people that have goals and wants and needs outside of whatever our, title is in a box.
Yeah, we have to be willing to think, what is it that I do want? And then how can I make that happen? And it might look different depending on whether you have children or whether you're stationed overseas or any number of variables that we have in our lives. It might not be exactly how we would have planned it for ourselves, but it also creates opportunities because after having some stressful years doing accounting before I got married, I didn't necessarily want to go back to that. And so the military gave me the opportunity to pivot in a big way to move out of that and do something else, to be an entrepreneur, to be a yoga teacher. And I know that's not everybody's story. I know a lot of people are hurting because they're not able to work in their fields or to do the things that they want to do because maybe it is location specific. But to the extent of our capability, we have to see what power do we have to decide things for ourselves within the constraints that we're living with.
Oh, I love that. What power do we have? It's, I'm just going to like resonate in that for a minute. So I do love to bring some kind of actionable advice in on this show. So for military spouses or women in the military community in general, looking to improve their health and wellness, what are some general tips or advice that you have for them?
First, I want to say that your wellness matters because it's really easy to put everybody else first. You're doing the things that you're voluntold to do. You are doing the things that you do want to volunteer to do. You're looking out for your family. You're moving all the time. You're getting settled in. You're maybe pursuing a career. You're doing all these things and responsible for all these things and helping in so many ways. But if your wellness is not on point, you're not going to be showing up as your best self in any of these areas. And so you have to make it a priority to get back to the basics of things, to get enough sleep, to eat well, to drink your water. I mean, my goodness, I'm telling my team right now, if the meeting goes longer than an hour, I'm probably gonna have to excuse myself for a second. Look at you with your water bottle, because I'm working on hydrating. So, and moving your body, going outside, these things that get put by the wayside, even though they're basic, because we're reaching out in so many different other areas. So get back to the basics of your own wellness, make it a priority, it matters, and then find a community. Because if your community is calling you to binge watch Netflix or to whatever it is that is not a healthy activity or that's keeping you from these basics of wellness in your life, find the people that are going to invite you out to go for, during this time, a socially distanced walk, or to send you links to helpful articles, or to say, hey, let's do this 30-day fitness challenge together, or let's get on a streaming yoga platform and take the same class every day, or whatever it may be, to help make wellness a priority in your life.
I love that. Man, I can't think of a better way to end. So with that, Kimberly, where can people find you, or independent? What would you like to shout out?
Yeah, so you can find me personally, Instagram or LinkedIn probably is the best place to do that. And it's Kimberly, last name is spelled BACSO. So you can find me in those places. And then I'd invite you to come out and check out Independent. Website is a great place for that, because then you can find all our social accounts from there. So it's in-dependent.org. And we would love to be that community for all the military spouses, where you can find your people that are going to cheer you on and encourage you to be well and hold you accountable, and try to combat some of the isolation that we deal with as military spouses.
I love it. Kimberly, thank you so much for being here. And of course, I'll have all of your links in the show notes as well. But it was really a pleasure talking to you, having this conversation, and thank you for sharing your passion for wellness and your wisdom with us.
Thanks so much for having me, Ashley. It's been a pleasure.